Hi, this is Kerry Artak with Wicked Stocks, bringing you your weekly Bitcoin video series that we put out on our YouTube channel. Just a reminder that wickedstocks.com has a whole suite of products that we offer daily and weekly. Daily analysis in the SPY, the Triple Q weekly analysis in Apple, the S&P 500, the NASDAQ 100, as well as 2 individual stock picks every week. So I'll let you check that out at wickedstocks.com because we offer a 5-day free trial up front. But let's talk about Bitcoin. This is once again for the week of Monday, October 27th, and I kind of like to backtrack to just to catch us up in terms of what is the long-term outlook, what are the longer-term impulses acting on this market, we did settle about a year ago, November of 24, above a significant 5-year channel structure that put Bitcoin into a whole new realm. One of, our first target and our only achievement so far has been the 122,433 full wave count. It's acted actually stronger than I anticipated. I expected a month of containment here, perhaps, but I was expecting, longer-term bullish continuation. There's a channel top that I'll show in a moment, etc. But this 122,433 is a significant area. The market has told us. We have spiked through it 3 or 4 times on the weekly chart. We've yet to close above it. It is an A minus B plus A. So you take the 21 high, you subtract the 22 low, and you add that back to the 21 high, and you get this. It's kind of a balancing element, if you will. So I call it the full swing, where the market can grow exhausted because it rallies an equal point above the high as it broke prior to that. And so here we are, 122,433, ceiling of resistance, still able to contain monthly, possibly quarterly buying pressures. I do think it's in play again this following last week's settlement back above this pretty classic channel bottom, 109,003 this week. We closed below it about 2 weeks ago, popped right back above it yesterday on the stock market rally. I do equate the stock market, the S&P 500, quite a bit with this. When we get into a bear market in the stock market, as we did from 21 to 22, you can see how Bitcoin mirrors that activity. Now, what is not being mirrored right now is the fact that you've got both NASDAQ and the S&P 500 pushing to new all-time highs, and you certainly don't have Bitcoin doing that right now. So that's a bit of a head scratcher. And I'll let you read into that what you may. So is Bitcoin basically telling the stock market not so fast, or is Bitcoin lagging on longer-term bullish continuation? This is obviously the question. Now, as far as the S&P 500 is concerned, we did close last week above a 5.5-year channel top, but by a very narrow margin. So I'm not convinced yet that the S&P 500 is positioned for meaningful gains as we continue through Q1. That may play out. We're watching that closely. Once again, I would invite you to go to wickedstocks.com, take advantage of the 5-day free trial, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But for right now, as far as Bitcoin is concerned, I am comfortable buying 109,003, anticipating over the next 3 to 5 weeks, 122,433 again, where we can top out again on a monthly, possibly quarterly basis. And if we were to close above 122,433, I can actually jump to that right now. In the weeks ahead, I would expect this steeply rising channel top that spans a full year of activity at 145.40, and I think that's realistic. So if we do close above 122,433 in the coming weeks, and you've yet to go long more Bitcoin, or you've yet to go long Bitcoin at all, I think this is a pretty clear-cut buy signal on strength, where you can anticipate then this 145.40 level and climbing. For instance, I'm just going to go to the turn of the year. By the first week of January, it's at 147,697, just so you know. And this is a realistic objective. I would call this within 2 to 3 months of closing above 122,433. But we're not there yet. And where we are is above 109,003 and below 122,433. And on the way up from here, and I do think 122,433 is in play once again, say by the end of November. We do have a 5/8 upside Fibonacci from the high that was put out in early October against that recent low just a week later. 117,590, 5/8 upside Fibonacci may contain weekly buying pressures. We could trade inside of this for a week or two, but if we do settle this week above 117,590, I would expect a test next week of 122,433. Now, very simply, if we close back below 109.003, I'm assuming the S&P 500 is also backed away, back below that 5.5-year channel top, that it settled above last week by less than a 1% margin. So I like the 1% violation thresholds for what I would call a more technically reliable show of strength longer term. The S&P 500 is not there yet. It may play out this week, in which case I would say a settlement above 122.433 is impending, but we're not there. And if we close this week back below 109.003, it tells me the S&P 500 is probably backed off and settled back below that 5.5-year channel top, which I think would be a bearish development for the broader stock market. If we close, bottom line, below 109.003 this week in Bitcoin, I would anticipate, once again, 2 to 3 months bearish continuation. I think you can play this again. If you wanted to go with the settlement, and I could just kind of draw this up right now, the low settlement price of 107.034, I'll just type that out for you, 107.034, and I'll just kind of do that. If we close below that level, that is a confirmation of follow-through weakness. So I'm comfortable at least exiting a long position below 109.003 because I think odds then skew to the downside as a couple of weeks ago. And if we close below 107.034, you have an outright show of weakness where you can play the short side or exit all Bitcoin if you're a 2 to 3 month swing trader, all right? If you've been invested long-term in Bitcoin and you're just watching the series just to see what the big picture looks like, know that if we close below 107.034, the mid to upper 80s in reach by the end of the year into early Q1, where this market encounters significant long-term support, able to contain selling through all of 26. I'm going to leave it at that for this week's Bitcoin Index update. You have a great week.